Let's call the meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag
of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of friendship among United
States.
I know we can see them, but just call for a roll call, just for those that are listening.
So let's do a roll call vote. Each of you counselors, give us your name that you're there.
Yes, I'll start. John Evans, here I am.
Sharon Abraham, I'm here. Linda Holly. Audrey Lettermore, I'm here.
Okay, so all present and accounted for. Before I go any further on this, I wanted to do a shout out to Leota and the Independent for their Facebook streaming of the meeting. Didn't get that in the other night, but want to thank the Independent. Counselors, before we do approval of the agenda, we'd like to relocate item 4B, the possible hire of Loretta Easterling. If we could, move it up to the last thing before discussion items. She's busy right now. She's called in and she's waiting on the phone to talk to us, but she needs to move along if she can. So it would be to approve the agenda by moving item 4B up to just ahead of discussion items.
Mr. Mayor, so moved.
We got a second?
I'll second. Linda Holly.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve tonight's agenda with one change, and that would be to move item 4B, discussion, consideration, action on the mayor's recommendation to hire Loretta Easterling as a police officer for the town of Edgewood to just in front of discussion items. Do a roll call vote on this. Counselor Abrams?
Aye.
Counselor Harmio?
Aye.
Counselor Holly?
Aye.
Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
Okay. Next item is the consent agenda. That's town council meeting for two meetings. What's that?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion we just approve this consent agenda and move on.
Okay, there was a couple corrections made. Who spoke
Yeah,
up?
Mayor, I would like
Counselor Abraham, go ahead.
I would like to remove item B for discussion.
Okay. We good with the rest of it?
I'd like to offer a friendly amendment on item 2A on the last page. Instead of it saying passed, approved, and adopted this 25th day of March, it should say passed, approved, and adopted this 22nd day of April.
Right. We'll take note of that.
Friendly amendment taken.
Thank you.
Okay, so motion has been approved to, who made the motion?
I did.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to approve tonight's consent agenda minus item B, the town council meeting minutes for April 9th, 2020.
Who seconded?
Counselor Holly, you seconded it, right?
I just offered a friendly amendment.
Second.
Who seconded it? Did nobody?
I will.
Okay. So motion's been made and seconded to approve tonight's consent agenda minus item B, the town council meeting minutes for April 9th, 2020. Do it on a roll call. Start here. Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
Counselor Abrams?
Aye.
Counselor Harmio?
Aye.
And Counselor Holly?
Aye.
Okay, Counselor Abraham, what do you want to discuss?
I have a couple things down toward the end, right before the vote. I want to, under your discussions, Mayor, I want to make sure my point of order was called and ignored. And then before the vote, I want to make I want to add in the fact that the call for the question did not have a second, and we did not vote if we wanted to call the question or not.
Another motion?
Yes, those changes.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the town council, meeting for April 9th, 2020 as is, and move on.
We got a second?
Also, Mayor, I'm a little confused, sorry, I thought that Sherry was making a motion for those minutes with those changes.
I did make a motion for those changes.
So you want
I
something
didn't
put in
hear
there
a
about
motion,
point?
Mr. Mayor. I have a motion that I believe you accepted.
Okay, so we got a motion. Is there a
I believe
second?
my motion was first, Mr. Mayor.
I didn't hear a motion, Mr. Mayor, did you?
No, I didn't. I was trying to write down the stuff she was talking about. I didn't hear a motion. So we do have a motion from Counselor Abrams. Do we have a second to it?
I'll second the motion. Of course you will.
That was uncalled for, but we've got a motion and a second to approve item B, Town Council meeting minutes for April 9th, 2020. Do a roll call, another roll call.
Wait, Mayor, can we have discussion on this?
Go ahead.
So I just wanted to see if there were any points that Councilor Abraham had that we could debate here. So I wanted to invite Councilor Abraham to make a motion for an amendment to these minutes.
She can ask for a friendly amendment.
I ask for a friendly amendment to the motion to include the comments that I said, the fact that my point of order was disregarded when I made it so that we could get back on task, and the other part was that the call for the question was never seconded by another member of council. If you listen to the audio, it's not there. I would like those notes included in the
Okay, well, I'll second her amendment, her motion for amendment.
That's not how this works.
Will you accept that friendly
Not
amendment?
accept the friendly amendment. I call the question.
Question's been called.
According to Robert's rules, we need a second when a question is called, and then we need to have the whole council vote on if they want to stop debate or not. If not, one person can just stop the debate.
Hold on, counselors, I have a request here. Can you all speak a little bit slower? It's hard to hear it over the Facebook feed. Okay, back to where we were at here.
So let's clear
Listen,
let's, Mayor, just procedurally here, let's clear this up. As far as you stated that Councilor Abraham could ask for a friendly amendment.
Right?
Councilor Hawley and Abrams did not respond to that friendly amendment. I stated, I guess they don't, well, I heard Councilor Abrams say he doesn't accept that friendly amendment. So I was seconding her amendment for the change on the minutes.
I don't think
And
a
how
friendly,
this does work.
I don't think a friendly amendment requires a second. It's a request to
Right,
the person
so-
that made the motion.
So what Randy Van Vleck in our training stated was
sometimes if it's something small and, there's no objections, you can ask for a friendly amendment. But in the course of debate, you can have one motion to approve the minutes, let's say, and then during the course of debate, you can have other motions that council votes on, and then they go back to the original question. So we can vote at this point on Councilor Abraham's proposed changes. Council can vote it up or down, and then we return back to the original question of the minutes. That's how it works.
Okay, so we'll take a vote on it, on her motion to put stuff into the minutes. Counselor Jaramillo?
Okay, just, excuse me, Mayor. Before we move on, I would like to state if anybody has anything in the minutes that, in the audio that show this information should not be included, I would like to know what it is.
And I wanted to state, I know I seconded that motion at that meeting. I have not gone back to listen to the audio.
I listened to it today. There was no second.
I'm pretty sure I heard a second.
On the call for the,
And actually,
there was not a second on the call for the question.
The,
Mr. Mayor, a point of order here. We've got a motion, a
Right.
second, and a call for the question in front of you.
right?
Let's
They have asked,
move on.
they have asked for the friendly amendment, so let's do a vote on it. Counselor Jaramillo?
aye.
Counselor Holly?
Nay.
Counselor Abrams?
Nay.
Counselor Abraham?
I vote aye because there is clearly some
Aye
problems
is
with
enough.
the audio from the last meeting.
The motion dies for lack of a majority. Now we go back to the original question. That is
Okay,
by
Mayor.
Counselor Abrams.
I'm so
Now, hold
confused.
on.
How can we say that there's a lack of a majority? It's a tie vote.
That's a tie vote, or is a lack of a majority. So
That
now the
can't-
question
you can't
comes
move
to,
on from a vote for a lack of a majority.
well, it dies for lack of a majority.
You have to vote on the tie.
No, I don't. So now we go
Yeah.
back to Counselor Abrams' motion to approve this item into the consent agenda. We'll do a roll call vote on that. Counselor Abraham.
Nay.
Counselor Holly.
Aye.
Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
Counselor Jaramillo.
Nay.
We got a tie vote. Mayor votes aye. It's approved.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
What?
Mr. Mayor?
What?
I have a question as to why did you have to vote to break one tie but not vote to break the other?
That was my choice.
So we can choose whether to vote or not?
I think so. Okay, the next item then is the item we moved up. It's the employment application here, discussion, consideration, action on mayor's recommendation to hire Loretta Easterling as a police officer for the town of Edgewood. Council, you have in front of you should have the application she sent in. Miss Easterling, are you there on the phone?
Muted. Unmuted.
Yes, sir, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Council, this is Loretta Easterling, and she's our applicant, for the police job. If you have any questions for her, she's on the line there. You can go ahead and ask them of her.
This is Counselor Holly. I wondered if you could give us a little bit of background about yourself, and I'm curious to know how you made your decision at this point in your life to get into law enforcement work.
Yes, Ms. Holly. I moved out to Edgewood in March of 2013. So I have been a member of the community there for a while now. However, my choice to make the decision of becoming a police officer so later in life is I'm a mother of one, and my son took priority over the years as to making my decision as to becoming a police officer. It's what I've always wanted to do, and as I got older, I thought I was too old to do this. However, I was encouraged by many to give it a shot because age is just a number as far as I'm concerned. And I took the opportunity, and here I am. I do wish that I would have done it sooner. However, I wouldn't have changed anything to be here now. Okay, thank you.
Any other council questions for Loretta? If not, I'll entertain a motion on it.
Mr. Mayor, I make the motion to accept the mayor's recommendation to hire Loretta Easterling as a police officer for the town of Edgewood.
Got a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the hiring of Loretta Easterling to be a police officer in the town of Edgewood. We'll do a roll call vote. Start here. Counselor Holly?
Aye.
Counselor Jaramillo?
Aye.
Counselor Abrams?
Aye.
And Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
Thank you, Council.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Loretta. You can go now.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yes, I look forward to meeting all of you in person soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, the next item is discussion items. Then, and the first up is public comments on general matters. First person going is Karen Kaiser. Ms. Kaiser, go ahead.
Hi, it's Karen Kaiser, Edgewood resident. There were just a couple of things I wanted to comment on tonight. The first is, I just wanted to state on the record that I think as a governing body, you made the wrong decision last meeting to hold a special election in November when the law seems to clearly call for an August election. And second, as charming as Ms. Easterling sounds, I think it's the wrong time to hire any new employee when the rest of the country, both governmental entities and businesses, are furloughing people. I don't know if you read the news last night, but Santa Fe County just announced a rather substantial furlough, and the mayor took a 30% pay cut. So hiring seems the opposite of what the rest of the country's doing. And this third thing that I wanted to comment on is, Mr. Bassett, a lot has been coming up about your flea market that your family operates there on State Road 344. And that kind of encouraged me to look into some things. And I just want to say that respectfully, I think it's wrong that you and your family operate a business without a business license and with a lot of unlicensed vendors. Some of those vendors often misrepresent what they're selling, and many of them don't pay gross receipts tax. And I don't know, I ask you to please look into that and fix it. It's also not an essential business, yet it's been open when other businesses have been forced to close by the governor's order. Yours has been open most every weekend for the 6 years I've lived here with the exact same vendors. So the itinerant worker exception doesn't apply. And I just respectfully ask you, Mayor Bassett, to play by the rules because they also apply to you. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who didn't sign up for public comment who'd like to speak? Okay,
Yeah, this is Jerry Powers.
go ahead.
I want to talk about this misuse of Robert's Rules of Order regarding calling the question. It's being used like a bludgeon, and Robert's Rules of Orders was developed to ensure a fair process. And so when you violate it, obviously it's an unfair process, and that's what's been going on here. I sent each of you an email with a link to JurassicParliament.com, which is a website dedicated to Robert's Rules of Order. And they say in there that calling the question is the most abused motion in all of Robert's Rules of Order. It's common for people to shout out, "I call the question," in the expectation that the debate will immediately stop and a vote will be taken. This is wrong, 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 is what it says. So as it was misused again tonight. Councilor Abrams seems to be, this is his favorite hammer, in order to butt in and stop debate illicitly, expecting a vote immediately. And this has been done. It was done at the last meeting. So what should happen is when someone calls the question, they first have to be recognized. They can't just butt in and interrupt. They have to have the floor. If they feel debate's gone on too long, they can make a motion to call the question. It has to be seconded, and then a vote has to be taken to end debate. That's the proper way to do it. So I really would encourage you to follow the rules, because they were designed for a fair process, not to be manipulated, used as a shortcut, to cut off and bludgeon, and to oppose any kind of dissent from any of the other councilors. Dissent is a time-honored tradition in this country that leads to making better decisions when there's full discussion. And those are my comments.
Okay. Is anybody else that hadn't spoken up yet want to speak up? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on then. Next item is matters from the councilors. Councilor Jaramillo.
Okay, I just wanted to thank Jesus and Juan for getting this go-to-meeting on video so that we can hear each other a lot better. And thanks the public who has called in to participate, even though this is kind of different and awkward. So also with the comments that have been made about the last meeting, I was trying to remember on that as far as the votes. I do remember Councilor Hawley seconding the motion to adjourn. I don't remember if she seconded the one on calling the question. Maybe she did, but I do know that we didn't vote on it, and that that there wasn't time for adequate debate, and Councilor Abrams did not have the floor. So I think those are things that really are valid. I mean, from my perspective as, you know, a fellow counselor, again, I want us all to respect each other's time, respect each other's voice. You know, you think back, I recently watched, well, it's maybe a few months back, John Adams, something on Amazon Prime. And just, you know, looking at the founding fathers and how they would painstakingly go through every single item. And I mean, they didn't always agree, right? And we're not going to always agree. And, you know, there's points that you can argue on every side, but I think that you can't stomp out the voice of the minority either. So I would again just ask that instead of being talked over or interrupted or cut off, that we just give each other the time that we need. I mean, I know when we had trainings with Randy Van Vleck, he gave examples of, you know, it might be necessary to cut off debate if you've been going on for hours on one topic. Well, we didn't even get, I don't even know how much time we had on that very important decision on the vote, but it could have been more than like 5 minutes. And we didn't have opportunity to kind of go around again and counter each other's points and talk about it. So In fact, I was thinking later that since the language does say shall, I wanted to hear from the attorney, our attorney, the town attorney, as to why, if it says shall do this, why it could be in November. That didn't make any sense to me. So, I think to do the public's business, it's just important that we give each other time and respect each other, and kind of go from there. And just we're not always going to agree, but it doesn't mean that we need to cut each other off and be rude. I mean, I know one legislator. This was back last year. Whenever call to question was used quite frequently on another issues, I asked one of the legislators, "Do you guys ever use that?" And this person was shocked. They were appalled. They were like, "That is the rudest thing that you can do to a fellow legislator or board member." They said, "We do not use that in Santa Fe." So just to give you some perspective on it, it doesn't feel good, and I don't think it's very nice. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Abraham.
A few things. I received a call this week from the person who's hoping to purchase Town Hall and wanted to know what the status of that was. I know we had called for a public meeting on that.
Was that Ms.
and then it
Raver?
got canceled because of,
Was that Ms. Raver?
yes, because of COVID. Yes, it was.
Okay.
And so I'm wondering, are we going to pursue that? Are we going to call for another public hearing?
Well, right.
What is the status of
So right now, the thing is, there's kind of hard to work a public hearing because you got to involve the public in it. And we haven't quite got up to that level with all this technology stuff. The Attorney General's thing, it pretty much said, don't have any public hearings, right? Because if you miss somebody or whatever, they can come back on you later and say, well, I didn't get involved in that.
Okay, so her other comment is she's in a time crunch.
Right?
Is there a way we can do some kind of a lease or a rental until we can get through this to meet her time crunch?
Well, that's a thought.
Mayor, council. So any option that we choose, because it is using the public, leasing out the public would require a public hearing. If we're leasing it or we're selling it, it will still require that public hearing. And that seems to be the thing we just can't get around right now.
Okay.
No, we're still interested in it, Counselor.
I
Very much so, but it's the
Okay.
thing of, you got to have your public hearing so anybody could want to have
Right.
something to say can get involved in it. And they can't come back and say, well, I don't got a
Right.
phone or don't got this computer stuff or.
Right. So my thought was, can we go ahead and call for a public hearing, say May 15th or something like that, so we have it scheduled?
I think we could probably do
for
that.
just as soon-
Yeah, I think we could probably do that.
Okay,
The main thing is getting it published a couple times in the newspaper.
huh?
So, in other words, getting it back, we had it in the newspaper ready to go, and then all this crap hit, and we'd have to
Right.
fire up and do that again, but I think we could probably try something like that.
Okay.
Let's see, the next one would be,
I would like us to see it, at least have it
13th.
scheduled tentatively and have to keep moving it out if we need to, but I know she's in a real time crunch.
right, and the key thing there on the advertising is, you got to have it in the newspaper.
Right,
So if you don't fall on the 13th, then you'd have to go the next week to come up in June then.
Mayor, council, if you
Right.
want, you could probably drive and call it as a special
Yeah, I
a
suppose we
special
could do that.
hearing or special meeting with the public hearing attached to it.
Otherwise, our next one is May 13th. We could try that. We could get it listed back in the newspaper again and at least have it on there to try something if whatever comes to pass.
okay. The other thing that got pushed to the side was our special meeting with the attorneys. So I was wondering if if we pass this resolution to allow us to have those video conference meetings, is there a way we can still meet with our attorneys and get an update on the status of all this legal stuff that's happening?
Well, so on that one there, how does that work?
So, Mayor, Council, that's part of the emergency declaration. One of the parts in there where, the very end, where the governing body may suspend operating resolution 2020-02. That would then suspend the requirements, which require you to be there in person for a closed session, and then we could do something where it's just an all phone. We can, we can still have a closed session, and then we would just adjourn the public meeting, then go in and call everyone by phone or something like that, just so we can have that meeting, because I know we still have that, we still need to have that closed session so you can meet with the attorneys. So that's part of this emergency declaration, is having that, suspending the 2020-02 portion, so that way it will give you guys that opportunity to meet, and you're not breaking your own rules.
Okay. That was my understanding of one of the things that we would be able to do with this resolution. So those are two of my issues. The other issue is I wanted to find out, there have been some wastewater plant questions that I brought up that I know you said we're waiting for information from our new operator. Do you have any update on that at all, as to when we might know something?
Yes, Mayor, Council, so we asked him to evaluate the entire plant, any issues or problems that he sees with it, any recommendations he might have for us, and we gave him until the end of this month, so we'll hopefully have something to you as soon as we get the report, and then we'll put something on the agenda for the next meeting just to kind of get that information out there to everyone. And hopefully maybe we
Okay.
can bring them in, or, see if we can get them in by phone if possible, just for any questions for you guys.
Okay. All right. I want to say thank you for this format. It's much easier to hear. It's still not perfect, but it is much easier to hear. The last meeting was almost impossible to hear, especially Councilor Abrams. So thank you for doing this. It's working much better for me.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Counselor Abrams?
I don't really have anything this evening. The only thing that I have to say is we've got an awful lot of people working in hospitals, and the EMTs hauling people into the hospitals and other things, and I just my heart goes out to all of them. And my family's in the middle of it, so.
Yep, good luck with that. Counselor Holly?
Okay, I would like to bring forth some information that I gleaned out of the police reports that I don't think the public gets to hear about. So bear with me. I know counselors have all heard this. But I did want to share with the public that the Edgewood Police Department donated 4,000 candy-filled eggs to the local school district to include in their grab-and-go lunches so that children in the community could still enjoy them. I know we had planned on having the Easter egg hunt and had prepared for that when plans had to change, and so I think this was a good solution to get those treats out to the kids. In addition, according to Chief Crow, many community members have donated items to the police department to help in combating COVID-19. Tractor Supply donated masks, and 2 community members have brought by hand sanitizer. And of course, the police greatly appreciate all that, and so does us on the council. Thank you for thinking of our officers. And then finally, back in February, our officer Amber Matas accepted a certificate of achievement on behalf of our police department for raising $1,000 for the Special Olympics. And I'm sure many of you in the community contributed to that effort. So thanks to all. And I too want to give my thanks to Jesus Velasquez for the yeoman's job he's done in getting us up and running on this platform. And then to the rest of our staff on duty in the town, I know everyone has had to make accommodations to do their job under difficult circumstances. So shout out to all of you. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I go back and say one more thing that
Go ahead.
popped into my head?
Go ahead.
Listening to Governor Lujan today, she said that Santa Fe County has just done a stellar job with handling COVID-19. That we are like a poster child for the world. So I just wanted to give a shout out to all of our citizens who have stayed home, who have done what we need to do to get this under control and hopefully get us all back to regular, normal life soon.
Okay. Okay, that brings us to matters from the clerk treasurer, Mr. Torres.
Yes, Mayor, Council, so I sent an email out to you a little while ago about the district meetings this Friday at 2. I do apologize, I went back and double-checked my email, and I did receive something on Tuesday, which I'm glad that I didn't send that one out because that one was limiting it to 125 people. This new one is not limited, but it is still Friday at 2, and I do believe that they will have a follow-up one on Monday.
Is it a phone or does it got the computer
It's a
thing?
phone. It's similar to what the public's doing right now, where you're dialing the number and then you're entering the code.
I read it real fast there. I thought it said just phone.
So it'll be, I think that'll be an interesting update. Also, we received a notification that the ICIP deadline has been extended to September 18th. One of the questions I did ask DFA, if this continues, I mean, hopefully we're not still shut down by September, but just how will we handle the public meetings since we wouldn't be able to have them? So that's something we just want to try to find out, figure out if they'd be willing to waive that. And I mean, we will still try and get as much public input as we can. Once again, hopefully we're not shut down that long, but we'll see. I also wanted to parrot what Councilor Hawley said about people donating PPE to our police. I know I've had a very hard time just trying to track it down and order it and try to get it in for all of our town staff that's out and around in the public. We're having a very difficult time trying to get it. Fortunately, I mean, at least when we order stuff, we're limited on what we can order, but we're looking at 2 weeks out versus, I know on my personal account, I even tried ordering stuff for them, and that was like 3 months out just trying to get the PPE and stuff. So we're able to get it a little bit faster than the general public, but still it's very limited. So thank everyone who did donate. We really do appreciate it. And that's all I have, Mayor, right now.
Thank you, Juan. Matters from the mayor, I would just echo all of those sentiments of thanking everybody for their patience and their basically goodwill as we get through this mess. I know it's hard on a lot of people and stuff. I didn't get to see the governor's thing. I heard a bit of it on the news this evening, but I don't know. I guess she's extended it a little bit out into May. And I'm not sure, this is very weird, nothing we've ever had like this before. But I do appreciate everybody that's contributed, by staying home. I know I've got a couple family members that are in the category of, susceptible and that, and I sure don't want to see anything happen to them or to anybody else. We have done a good job here. Santa Fe County's numbers, whenever they show that thing, have been really pretty good. Boy, Four Corners area, they don't have that kind of luck up there, it seems like. But, let's hang tough and we'll try to get through it and get to the other side. Yeah, we do need to work on that. Councilor Abraham, like I said, we'll be talking to the attorneys and that, see if there's any change on that on the public hearing, but we do need to try to do that. If she's still willing, we are too, and so we'll see if we can keep working on this cotton picking computer thing. Maybe we can pull something off with it. Okay, so that's it for me. The next thing then would be to the action items, and first one is the resolution we were talking about there. 2020-07, a resolution declaring coronavirus COVID-19 emergency disaster declaration for the town of Edgewood, New Mexico. Basically, I see one problem in it down here, and that whereas on the public education department, while children are at school, should be made into home. Because that's, as you well know, that's where they're at now. They're not in school.
Yes, sir.
Council have any comments on it?
Mr. Mayor, there was one other thing, if I may.
Go ahead.
On the last portion, number 3, where it says the governing body may suspend operation resolution, and then it quotes the newest guidelines from the Office of the Attorney General's Open Government Division to ensure compliance
Right.
with the Open Act. I would like us just to either attach a copy of that or give the link so that people can see what that is.
Have they come with anything new than that one we got originally?
Mayor, council, I think that's the original, that's the
still
one we're operating off
Still
of.
the one, okay. Yeah, we could do that. We could attach that on there, because
Okay.
it's specifically to that.
It may update, throughout this process, so
Right.
I was thinking a link might work better.
Okay, I think we could do that. I'll put down here.
Okay.
Other thoughts are on this? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion on it.
I do have another thought, Mayor. Well, first of all, I did want to ask, do we need to do this for purposes of attaining funding?
That's part of it
Can
up
we
here
declare,
in
like,
item
an
number 1.
emergency? Yeah.
You got it there on
I'm
item number 1 or whatever? Yeah, that's part of it, is to, in case something comes along that you need to have made a declaration.
Okay. And then secondly, I just wanted to add right into number 3, the governing body may suspend, section, I believe it's 3J4 of the operating resolution 2020-02, because that's where it says participants in a closed session must be physically present and comprise a quorum of the governing body. So I just wanted to.
In other words, that would be the
before-
most likely one that we'd need to have that closed session, right? Is what you're
I think that's the
saying?
only one
Yeah,
that we need to suspend, as far as I know.
okay.
Well, Mayor, council, I mean, it would change, I mean, we could also change the time of meetings, if we suspend it, so.
Right.
I mean, most people are at home now anyway. There were several reasons for the suspension. It wasn't just to give us the benefit of, the closed session via, the virtual.
Well, maybe we just add in the section of the meeting times one. Maybe that's what we do.
Well, I see what he's saying, though. Yeah, it was the idea that it would allow you a little more flexibility with your meeting times and like the closed session thing, and
The problem though is that it's too broad, because then everything else in the operating rules doesn't, it's just like thrown out for a while.
if we suspend it. It's a may,
Yeah.
not a shall, it's a may. We'd have to talk about that if we went to do something, but maybe he's right, have it go ahead that way, and then if,
I guess, Mayor, council, so since it does say the governing body may suspend, I mean, any action taken, like if for the closed session, if, let's just say, for the example of that one with the attorneys,
right?
we would have that on the agenda, and then you guys would then, in your motion, also just, choose to suspend it. It doesn't say you're going to, this is not yours, you shall, and you are suspending the entire thing. I
Right.
mean, you suspend it as you go. It's not just,
Yeah, I
we're
guess
just
you could
throwing
put
it out
that
the
into a
door, and
motion.
you guys still have to
Yeah.
make that decision.
Yeah. Specify which section you're,
We could. Okay. Mr. Mayor,
yes, ma'am.
what about a recommendation of we will look at this monthly at each of our meetings to decide do we want to continue these changes or not? Like
I think we could do
suspend
that. I mean, I think we could just do it.
resolution to facilitate the use of virtual meetings for the, for a certain amount of time, during the COVID-19 or something, like each month we decide, do we want to continue suspending this or not?
Right. Well, I think the other thing on that, Counselor, would be, like you said, if he come with any new guidelines, that would certainly be a reason to revisit it. I'm cool to looking at it monthly.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir. Counselor Abrams?
I think that adding just a couple of words to section 3 will resolve the discussion that we've been having.
Okay.
It reads currently, the governing body may suspend operating resolution 2020-02 to facilitate the use of virtual meetings, blah, blah, blah. I propose that we add the words parts of the, so that the section 3 would read, the governing body may suspend parts of the operating resolution 2020-02 to facilitate the use of virtual meetings. What we're doing is we're saying we're going to do parts of it, not the whole thing. I think that would suffice to describe exactly
some
what we
heads
are
nodding.
doing.
But that doesn't, if we just do that, does that allow for us to do legal, meetings? Closed session legal meetings?
Well, you'd have to put it in your motion, I think.
Mayor,
Facilitate the use of virtual meetings.
Mayor, can I clarify something?
Go ahead.
So, Councilor Abraham, I think this resolution is just stating that we may do
Right.
that. It's not saying that we are right now. So, as of right now, we're not suspending it or parts of it yet. And so now I'm understanding what Juan and the mayor are saying is that in such a time that happens, then the motion needs to say we are suspending section 8.
Right.
Mhm.
Whatever it would be.
Whatever, Yeah, and then that way, and Councilor Abrams, I like your suggestion of just parts of, because that way we can make it clear, what they are.
Go with that?
Yeah, and Mr. Mayor, Council, if I may, so the other part of that too, that's why I was saying, so like, you will still, you still have to make a motion. When we first received copies of this, resolution, this gave basically
see
full
one?
power to the mayor to just go in and make the changes. And so this leaves the power with the governing body, so you guys can make the change. And how I was saying before, where you guys still have to make the motion, so like with the meeting times, when we get to calendar review, you guys can say, okay, I want to still do the next one, May 13th at, 3 PM or something. So you guys still have to make the motion to make the change.
Yeah.
We're not suspending the whole thing, but it's just giving you guys that option. You always have the option to suspend your operating resolution. This is just calling it out specific to, I guess, the COVID-19 emergency.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I think with the change that Councilor Abrams suggested, that gives us flexibility that we need, and I'm in agreement with Sherry, Councilor Abraham's suggestion about adding the link to that section as well. Sounds good.
Adding the AG's guidelines?
Right.
Okay. Well, then I'll entertain a motion on it.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-07, a resolution declaring the coronavirus COVID-19 emergency disaster declaration for the town of Edgewood, New Mexico.
You got a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. We'll do it on a roll call vote. Counselor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
Counselor Holly.
Aye.
And Counselor Abraham.
Do we need to include with changes noted or not in the motion?
I guess you could put that in there. We had several, and I've got them wrote down here. The parts of, the attached AG guidelines, and then switch school to home.
Or
And,
accept that friendly amendment?
yes, and the wording in section 3.
Yes.
Yes. Yep, I got it all
Okay,
here
vote aye.
written down. Did you vote aye?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Okay, next item, discussion, consideration, action on approval of the financial report for month of February 2020. Mr. Torres.
Mayor, council, so what you have before you is the financial report for, the first one is for February 2020, and one of the things you'll notice right away is on the food and medical distribution, we were down. So when I contacted Tax and Rev about that, we had one entity that wasn't reporting, and as you'll see on the next month, they did report, and we did get, made whole for that. So that is why we were down on the distribution for that month.
Big one.
Yeah, so other than that,
I was hoping that was just increased GRT from everybody shopping.
actually, so Mayor Council, for that, we won't see the first numbers in, March numbers until May, and then we won't see the numbers for June until.
For April till June.
Or for April until June. So we're still off on that. This was just, I guess, January and February's numbers are these two reports for GRT.
And it looks like everything was still kind of perking along about the same there.
Right, we were kind of on track. I mean, if, minus the full hold harmless portion, we would have been on track with kind of last year and what we've kind of been projecting.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Go ahead.
If the state is in dire straits, could our hold harmless be at risk?
I think that we'll be talking about that and down on the item E. Yep. It's going to get weird up there at the old roundhouse.
Now, on the council report, so I guess one thing that you'll see on there, from Sangre de Cristo Sciences LLC, manhole sampling, and that's just the annual sampling that was done earlier or late last year, and that was just the invoice for it, and that's what's used to calculate the wastewater rates every year. So that's that bill that came in, that $8,033.75. Other than that, I mean, I don't think there's anything that really stands out. Council, if you have any questions.
Mr. Torres, I have a question. I know you said we had hired a new contractor to run our wastewater plant, Aqua Environmental. I was wondering why there are no payments to them.
Mayor, Council, I believe those are on the, that'll be coming up, so their billing didn't come through until this past month, so that'll be on next month's financial report.
And so they bill quarterly?
Well, the initial billing, he didn't submit his first month's billing, so this next month's gonna be 2 months, January, February billing, we're gonna get those coming in, because he didn't start until January, actually on the ground.
Okay, can you tell me how much that is monthly?
It's approximately 5,000 a month, unless there's anything specific that we need to reimburse him or pay him for.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question on the check run. There's one that says, I can't quite make it out, but Elena Chemical Company.
Oh, Helena.
Oh, Helena.
Yeah.
But it's a flat amount for 2,500, and I was wondering what that was.
Yeah, Mayor Council, so that's we use Helena Chemical for our fertilizers, our pre-emergents, basically our weed spray, things of that nature. I believe that one was a fertilizer for the fields, but I will double check and get back to you on that one.
Okay. Well, I noticed we had purchased a lot of base course. Where is that going?
Mayor Council, so that base course, I believe, was what was used on Square H, Madole, Lacey. You're going to see some additional ones coming through. We put some additional base down on Steeplechase, and we also we're going to be putting some base down, I believe, East Venus and Nugent, I think are the next ones scheduled.
Okay. Where do we store it at?
We don't.
Mayor
Buy it as needed.
Yeah, Mayor Council, so when we order it, the trucks come from the current vendors, Moriarty Concrete, and then they'll go put it on the road, and then our crew will go level it out and spread it out on the road. So we don't actually stockpile any base course, other than just what we need for miscellaneous repairs.
Okay. Thank you.
Council, if there's no more questions, I'll entertain a motion on this one for February.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the financial report for the month of February 2020.
Got a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the financial report for the month of February 2020. Do a roll call vote. Start here. Counselor Holly?
Aye.
Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
Counselor Abrams?
Aye.
And Counselor Jaramillo?
Aye.
Okay, the next item then is discussion, consideration, action on, and approval on the financial report for the month of March. Mr. Torres.
Mayor Council, so now you'll notice on the GRT side, so if you look at the food and medical distribution, it went back up, and that would be that was the difference for that one that was not reporting. If you move over into the council report, so the big one there, there was two big ones. There's Albuquerque Asphalt, and that was the final payment for the paving for South Horton.
Yep.
And then there's Bohannon Houston, and for whatever reason, the two bottom ones did not print out a description on there, but both of these were all for the all the MBR facility improvements, and the other blank ones are for the concrete slab design and the other design work at the wastewater treatment plant.
Council have any questions for Mr. Torres? Well, there's Helena. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion on this one.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the financial report for the month of March 2020.
Got a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded to approve the financial report for the month of March 2020. Do it on a roll call. Start with Counselor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Counselor Holly.
Aye.
Counselor Abraham. Counselor Abraham.
Aye.
And Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
Oh, that was weird.
Okay, that brings us to the last one
I'm
here.
having some glitches here. Is anybody else?
No?
I'm seeing everybody. Everybody can hear?
Yeah.
I see the heads nodding.
Mr. Mayor, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Is that better?
I hear you bits and pieces, and everybody is, I don't know if it's my network or yours. Everybody else seems frozen.
No, Mine isn't, but it was glitching.
Jesus says he thinks it's your connection.
Okay.
Okay, so the next item
It
then,
seems to be working better now.
maybe you need to go stand in the corner like with the antennas, and lift one arm up or something.
Maybe.
Okay, this is the resolution adopting the Town of Edgewood interim budget for fiscal year 2021. And counselors, you see the paperwork that came with it that Juan attached. Juan, go ahead and tell them what you talked to them up there and
So, Mayor, Council,
what brings us to this.
yes, thank you. So what DFA sent down is they sent down the memo. They realized that there's no way at this point in time we can forecast revenue. We have no idea what these shutdowns are going to do to our GRT or what it's going to do to the state budget for that matter. I know the memo doesn't really address the state budget, but in my conversations with DFA, that's one of the things we're just uncertain of. We don't know what clawbacks may happen if they do get this special session in June, if they're going to go after, what funds are they going to hit? We don't know if they're going to go after the Law Enforcement Protection Fund. We assume they're going to hit the capital outlay, and they might look at, previous ones. I mean, they're looking at, I think the last thing I saw was over $1 billion deficit that they're projecting just on the oil side. So what DFA basically said is they understand and realize it's next to impossible for us to forecast our budget, and the other part is just with the shutdown, the public health order, we can't convene to have that public meeting just to meet with the department heads and actually go forth. So what they recommend was just moving forward with our 2020 budget and passing that as our 2021 budget and making adjustments as needed. I mean, this is just for the interim budget, so who knows, we might be open and back up at some capacity so we can actually discuss this and make alterations for the final budget approval. But once again, this is just for the interim budget, which is due June 1st. So if this is approved, we'll get this submitted and go from there. I mean, if this does go on, my instructions so far to the department heads are if we pass the 2020 budget, we're not going to let them spend like it's 2020 until we know for certain. I mean, there might be certain things that we'll bring to your attention, like the police vehicles or the things that we kind of need to do, but we're really going to have to evaluate once we start seeing what our GRT and our revenue streams are. I mean, I don't see how we could, it would be irresponsible to move forward just kind of operating, even if we pass this, without really looking at that moving forward. But this is just kind of the placeholder that DFA was recommending we get in place for the budget. And I hope we're able to convene before the final budget and we'll have a better picture by then as to what GRT looks like, and we can hopefully come up with a more comprehensive, but the way it sits right now, we're just kind of going off the advice of DFA.
And Counselor Abraham, to your point about the hiring of a police officer, that was a replacement, not an additional. But I know what you're saying, and I've been reading the newspaper and all that stuff, and, the big guys are
Well, the one
some stuff.
Mr. Mayor, I know we've got some people that are going to be retiring and stuff like that soon. Can we maybe hold off on their replacements?
We can think about it, I guess.
Mr. Mayor, if I may. So I guess one of the things that we should, I guess you as the governing body should evaluate would be the positions that are being retired from. They're kind of critical services. I think we still will need a supervisor out on the roads. Our financial specialist, Dora, we know she's going to be retiring here at the end of June. And then, of course, police
What about
officers. Parks and Rec is still
Parks
vacant.
and Rec?
It's still vacant.
What we've thought on that one is just hold that one, let it sit in the budget for now, because we've got everything pretty much locked down anyway, but just sit on it for now and see what happens. It could be a source of revenue if we need to, cob something from somewhere else.
And Mayor, Council, if I may, so I think just kind of, if we had.
Could you maybe like how we did when Chief Radosevich left and we promoted, we put somebody in place for the interim. could we put one of our road maintenance guys as supervisor for the interim instead of hiring somebody?
Mayor Council, we could, but the problem with that is we have to have 3 people out at all times, just for the maintenance of the road. So that would still leave all the administrative duties, the ordering, the complaints. I mean, all of that stuff would still have to be picked up, and I don't know, I mean, we could try to pass it off to staff here, administrative staff here, but at the same time, I mean, we don't have the knowledge or expertise for that, or necessarily, I mean, it is possible. I mean, there are just workarounds we could do, but I'm not
But
certain.
I also understand that right now a whole lot of people are doing a whole lot more than what they've ever been called on to do before. So that's all I'm saying. If our budget's going to be that tight, and we may be looking at hold harmless, we've got to do whatever we can now to build up as much reserve as we can. I mean, yeah, it may fall to you and Carla, but in the past, we've had to furlough a lot of people and have someone doing 10 jobs. So, I think if there's any way we can hold off hiring people and step up somebody that's already doing the job, maybe that's what we need to seriously look at. I'm very concerned about this next year's budget.
Agreed.
I have a couple of comments.
Go ahead.
I share everyone's concerns really about the budget, and it's just such an uncertain time. I think, we've been getting by without the Parks and Rec director right now. Like you said, that it is vacant. I think it wouldn't hurt too much to, see where this goes, and hopefully we do get out of lockdown soon. As well, if I'm not mistaken, I think that the roads maintenance director had already been out for months, right? So I think other people have been kind of taking on that responsibility already. So, it wouldn't be that much different than all these months already that have been happening. And then I guess my other overarching question, to look at it kind of big picture, one, are you familiar with what I think you are, the mayor of I think it was Farmington had said, where they were going to reopen their town using the course of 20% and the social distancing and the, sanitizer and all of that stuff. Do we have an update on that? Because I was just kind of curious. I attended a webinar the other day that the chamber had put on, and really this is just killing our small businesses, and it's really just not fair that while Walmart and, the bigger stores can stay open, and they can't. And it's really not even logical. So I was just wondering if there's something we could do similarly. I mean, still be safe, of course, and leave everybody to have their freedom of choice, right? If Councilor Abrams doesn't want to go to a store and his family doesn't want to go to a store, they don't have to. They're not being forced to put themselves at risk here. But yeah, I'm just curious if anything has happened with Farmington and.
Well, we're scheduled for another one of our conference calls with the mayors tomorrow, and they're going to give us an update, and then we'll have somebody from the municipal league there, and we'll see what the latest is. They've done that every week so far.
Also, Mayor, if I may, so on the conference call last week, we did speak with, and the mayor from Farmington did speak and kind of gave us all an update. And what he told us, their intention was with that wasn't necessarily to say, hey, open up, but more, they I think he was asking more for the governor to, show us the light at the end of the tunnel. What are the, what is going to be the outcome of this? Are we going to be able to open at 20%, still keeping the social distancing, if we have PPE? I mean, I think that's what he was trying to really express, that he really wanted just to know. He wasn't saying let's open up right now. He understands, and I think all the mayors kind of unanimously said they understand the small businesses are really hurting, And it's, I mean, it's really gonna hurt New Mexico. I mean, we're blessed to have some of the big boxes that are up and running, but other municipalities aren't so fortunate. And I think that was their big thing, was they really wanted to get that information from the governor as to what is the plan of action for reopening? How do we move forward? And that's one question we're gonna hopefully ask tomorrow as well, is
They were also asking about testing. Apparently, testing figures large in this idea of reopening everything up. They really want some sort of, some testing done or something so we can get a better idea of, who's got it, who doesn't, or whatever. But yeah, that's what tomorrow's update. The people at the municipal league were gonna be talking to the governor, and they were gonna be taking these ideas that the mayors had to them and, express to them just what he said there, that, they'd like to try to figure out what do we need to do and how soon can we get doing it. So that's where we kind of left it at there, and like I say, tomorrow. And then I expect that district meeting, they'll have something on that on Friday, wouldn't they?
yeah, I hope so, Mayor
I think
Council.
they will, because they were going to be over there. The whole thing was, come with your ideas about how to do it. There's CDC guidelines, some of them are trying. But other than that, it's a thing of, we all want to see an end to this mess and certainly help the small business. They're all essential business as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But it's just trying to figure out how do we do it and how soon can we, get trying it. So that's where we kind of
Right.
left it.
Right. And, I have heard, it's a matter of jurisdiction as well. For example, with the school districts, the governor can't tell them what curriculum to use. She can't, force local government to do certain things. So just keep that in mind in your call tomorrow.
Yeah.
The local governments need to stand up for their citizens and really, be safe and level-headed about everything. But my goodness, I heard she just extended it through, May 15th or something?
May
So,
15th, yeah.
yeah, I mean, she's not listening to the feedback at all. She's going the other direction while the numbers
Was
are
it,
going down.
was it the 15th for sure?
Yes,
Yes,
15th? Okay, that's a Friday.
yeah. And I'm really, let me finish. I am really glad that we were able to, flatten the curve, because, of course, we didn't want all of our, first responders to be overwhelmed and everything. But it's looking like it's not going to be the panic, horrible, catastrophic, children dying, people everywhere in body bags. I mean, it just doesn't seem like it's as drastic as all the models first predicted. So I'm just, I'm concerned about people. And
The other thing that happened, Counselor, in between now and then, when they had that, we'd looked at the numbers there, and it was around 1,400, and now it's jumped over 2,200. And it's like, well, you're hoping for that, drop off and everything flatten out. And they've got a bit of that now, but there was a big surge right in there in the week in here. And that threw them a little bit, that, when it was hanging around 1,400, it seemed to sort of hang there for a while. It's like, okay, well, maybe this is going to, take off and flatten, but then it all of a sudden 15, 16, 17, 18, and it's like, well, wait a minute, okay. But I know what you're saying. A lot of that's up there in the Four Corners country.
yeah, it is. Is it, did you say that there's a district meeting? Is it municipal league this Friday? Is that what you said?
Now, that's what he's telling you about.
Yes.
In that email.
Yes, Mayor Council, like I said, I did send an email out probably about 2 hours ago with the number to call and the code, and it is going to be the district meeting. I think AJ is going to be running that one from the league. And so hopefully we'll get some more feedback from the league, and hopefully the league can share some of the insight from what they've learned from the governor's office and Department of Health with us.
Yeah. And that's not in lieu of, is that the, like, regular spring meeting?
Yes, Mayor,
Yeah.
Council. So I think,
I seen on the thing it was about electing directors for each of the districts. Again, like everybody else, are kind of running behind because they got to set up all this stuff here to try to do this. Okay, well,
I'm,
go ahead,
I
Counselor.
have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
When is the last possible moment that we could turn in this resolution if we wanted to wait a little bit to see some of these things before we just turn in last year's budget?
Mayor, Council, there's actually not a requirement that the governing body pass a resolution. Now, the very last possible moment to do to submit the budget is June 1st for the interim budget. Now, the final budget there at the end of July, that's the one that requires the quarterly reports, the governing body approval, and all of that. So, but for this interim budget, I guess it would be June 1st if you wanted to pass a resolution.
I think I'd go
Could
ahead.
we hold off on this until our next meeting and maybe have some more information?
Well, I guess kind of Mayor, Council, so with respect to projecting the revenue, I mean, we just won't know that. I mean, we won't know that until June 15th through 18th, usually when we get the report from Tax and Rev, and that'll be for the GRT collected in the month of April. So, I mean,
Right.
we really won't know what our
Right,
revenue
but we
projections
may-
are going to be until after
But
the
we
due
may
date.
know but we may know what the governor's thinking and what the state's budget is going to look like, maybe a little better.
Not in May. I don't think they'll have the special session till June. Seemed to be the earliest one they were talking about.
Okay.
I think I'd go ahead and just get this placeholder in there, and that way we've got that done, and then it all falls apart the minute we can do something. And that's basically what they said. I
Okay.
mean, it'll be your placeholder, but that's all gonna fall apart when we actually have something to go with. And then like he says, July 31st is the drop dead for the 21 budget. No, they didn't figure they would have that till June at the earliest, and probably July on the special session.
Okay.
Did we lose the public?
We lost your face. Oh, there you are.
Well, yeah, but I think we might have lost the phone calls that were on.
Public phone's still
They're not
on.
on there anymore.
Mine still shows some.
Yeah, it
Oh,
still
okay.
shows
I have
some.
caller 7, 4,
It was just mine.
in the public.
Okay.
So if there's no other questions on that, I'll entertain a motion on Resolution 2020-08, resolution adopting an interim budget for fiscal year 2020-2021.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we pass resolution number 2020-08, a resolution adopting the interim budget for FY 2020 and 2021.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve adoption of Town of Edgewood Resolution Number 2020-08, a resolution adopting the interim budget for fiscal year 2020-2021. We'll do a roll call vote. Start there, Counselor Jaramillo,
Aye.
Counselor Holly,
Aye.
Counselor Abrams,
Aye.
and Counselor Abraham.
Aye.
Thank you, Council. Next item is calendar review. Town offices will remain closed to the public, and our next regular council meeting would be May 13th, 2020 at 6:30 PM. If I'm going to guess on that, I'd say she'll probably have, like she did today, some kind of something before then.
Mayor, Council, so this would be where I would ask you guys to potentially change our meeting time to earlier in the day, so we're not paying overtime, like for Jesus. And
Oh,
so, I mean, it's up to you, but
y'all want to entertain that idea?
I think that's a good idea. Save a little bit of overtime.
What
I
your-
think, I thought, Mayor,
Go
I
ahead.
thought that some of the staff were not working during the, like if they have their kids or, you know, like, in other words, the day could just shift, right? I mean, they could start working at 10 or something, right?
For some, I mean, it's up
Because
to you as
the
the
problem
governing body.
here is that we have the public as well, and many of them are still working and, you know, essential workers. And then I know in my case, my days are chock full of Zoom meetings and phone calls. I mean, it's almost like I'm busier now than I was before. Counselor Abrams can probably relate to that. So I don't know. I think it might be better even for the public just to leave them the way they are, and just have the employees, you know, kind of just.
I
shift.
agree. Because, yeah. Well, the office is closed, so they, you know, can work whenever. But yeah, my thing is, you know, I'm now homeschooling 5 days a week, which I've never
Right.
done before. So I now have to homeschool and then get my granddaughter home and then
How's
eat
that
dinner
going
and
down?
do this. So,
How's that going
oh, it's a
down?
nightmare.
That's what Juan's finding.
Nightmare.
Yep.
Yeah. Her teacher, the elementary school teachers are really not very tech oriented. You know, they're used to scissors and markers and paste. And so trying to fill out these forms online while teaching them that has been a real challenge for my granddaughter. Plus learning to type.
Well,
So it's been interesting.
so how would you want to do that? I mean, in other words, you could have them come in at 10 or something, start the day then if they knew they were going to work. Right now, all we've got is Jesus and Amelia in here, essential personnel, nobody else. What would your suggestion if you went earlier?
Well, I was just having them go earlier, so we're not staying as late into cutting into overtime hours, because
Yeah.
as it sits right now, I mean, Jesus is still up, operational, I mean, helping people that are
Right.
coming in, working at 8. I mean, if I show up or, you know, Carla shows up and has a problem, I mean, he's still working on the clock, so, I mean, it's completely up to you. If you want to keep it at 6:30, that's fine. That was just part of,
What I was wondering, like, what would your suggestion be if we did it earlier in the day, 3 o'clock?
about 3 in the
4 o'clock or
afternoon,
something?
just
No,
so,
that will not work for me.
3 or 4 won't?
I cannot do something that early.
Yeah. Okay,
I mean, it's the pleasure of the governing body. That was just a recommendation, a suggestion.
okay. Well, for now, we've got it at 6:30, so next item would be a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Okay,
Second.
do a roll call on it. Counselor Jaramillo?
Aye.
Counselor Abrams?
Aye.
Counselor Holly?
Aye.
And Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
We're adjourned. What is it?
7:53.
Is it 7:53? Thank you, council. See you on the flip-flop.
Thank you.